welcome to Phoenix Garage. Today, as you probably guessed from the last video, if you watched the last video, we are still building the engine, or still working on it. I'll show you what I've got done so far. I've done a lot behind camera just to move myself forward on a lot of this. It's only because of the fact that a lot of this is technical. You got to go to the book. You got to come back here. You got to back to the engine. You got to start, putting everything together. And I really have no time. I have to do all this within 2 hours. So, yeah, I'll show you exactly what I've done so far, and you can be the judge of if I've done a lot or not. But by what I've seen, I've only got one piston left to put in. After that, I'll be able to turn the engine upside down, torque everything down, all the pistons down, and then we'll be able to start putting the head on, which is going to be crazy because I've never seen this thing with the head exactly on it. So yeah, that'll be good. And then we can start setting things up to get the rest of the engine finished up. So with that, I'll turn the camera around and you can see exactly what I've been up to. All right, well, wait a minute. I think the camera's a little foggy back here. There you go, that looks a little better. All right, so you see, if anybody's wondering and you're building one of these engines, 4G63 or 4G64, and there's these little arrows here. You see these little arrows on here? It's just supposed to point towards the front of the engine, which is basically here where all your things, all your belts and everything are. That's the front of the engine. So you're supposed to have that pointing towards the front. And see here, where I'm standing, this is, technically, this would be the intake side, and this is the exhaust side. So what you would have is you'd have the engine, this is the front of the engine, this is number 1 cylinder, 2, 3, 4, and they're all pointing this way towards the timing belt. If anybody's wondering, that's how you do it. Now, I've been putting these in with a tool, which I really don't like. It's not the best tool in the world for this, but it's a piston, I guess, piston ring setter, whatever you call this. It's to seat the piston, and you're supposed to put the piston in it, tighten it up. It closes all your piston rings and allows you to push your piston in. And it's really, it's a rough setup to have, because when you bang it in, it ends up getting caught, and then you have to basically back it up a little bit and tighten this up a little bit, and then push the rest of the way in and hope you don't break nothing. But so far, I've been getting it right. I've been lubricating inside I lubricate inside here. I lubricate my connecting rod bearings, and then I slide it in, and I push it all the way down, and I guide it from underneath with my hand and make sure that the studs, these little, this is one of the last piston. You want to make sure that this doesn't come knocking into your crank, because it can scratch the crank. So you want to make sure your hand is there before it even comes down, so you can guide it to make sure that it's going towards the right place. All right. So while if I had a place I can set you up, it would be good. You can watch what I'm doing, but I'll try to find a place to put you. All right. Hopefully this works. Hopefully the phone doesn't fall down. I'm recording all this with my cell phone. Well, you can see me, I guess, now. Okay. Well, now what I'm going to do, I've had all these pistons, they were all wrapped in towels. What I gotta do is I gotta set my each ring pointing a certain way, so the way the opening, which is these little openings here, so you want to see, it has like these little openings here on each ring. They have them. They have to each be pointing towards a certain way. So the number 1 and number 2 ring have to be pointing 180 degrees from each other. And then the spring in between your oiling ring, it has to be pointing on the same side as your number 2, but your 2 top and bottom ring underneath, they go where the oiling ring is, they have to be pointing 180 degrees from that. Well, 90 degrees each side from that. So you gotta find, let me just find it here. Just give me an instant. I'll be right with it in a second. It can only be in one spot, right? Well, there's so much going on in that area. Here you go, I found it. So there, that one's pointing there, and your other one is pointing over here, so we're good. Got lucky with that one. All the other ones I've had to move them. Alright, so let's take this. I'll set this down. So now that we're set with that, I'm going to take the bottom cap off of your connecting rod end cap. Take that off. And what you want to do is you want to take oil. In my case, I'm using Royal Purple because for any other reason other than the fact that I trust Royal Purple. I'm not sponsored or anything with it, but I'm not really sponsored by them. But I mean, I use Royal Purple because I love the product. It's expensive oil, but if you know Royal Purple and you know how Royal Purple is, you know that it's a really good oil for a lot of things. This is one of them. It's a great lubricant. Lubricates a lot of things, does a lot of things right, and all the tests point to the fact that it's very limited in wear. So I'm going to loosen this up. You want to make it as big as possible, so that way you could put it over top of your piston and have your piston be able to be compressed. So this is basically a, what is that doing? There you go. This is a piston ring compressor, so that's not big enough. Let's see. Is this good? Yeah. Now what you do is you crank it until you can't crank it anymore. It needs to be cranked all the way. Now what you want to do technically is you want to leave a little bit off at the bottom so the way it can go in even on the in the piston. And here, since I'm following my arrow, pointing it that way. Now I've had trouble with this thing for all three. Well, the first one I actually didn't have any trouble. I was surprised, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna have a good time right now and not have to worry about it. Nope. That's what that happened. And then you take one of these. It's usually what's better to use something that's about the same mass, but you want something soft, not a hammer, a hard hammer. If you have a see, that's where it sucks, because now I gotta pull all that out again. And if you don't be careful, you can damage a ring. You can break a ring. And I don't have any replacement rings. Okay. Grab that. Now there, you gotta also figure. I got other shit. I got other things that are holding this in. Now, if I was able to just back it out, what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna have to tip it. So I can see what the heck's going on here. There you go. Here. let's try that again, shall we? All right, so get that out, put it back into the piston ring compressor. I mean, this could take 20 minutes to put one in, but if you do it right, which you'll hopefully try to do the first time, so let's try this again. What's weird is that usually it's not that number one piston that bothers me. It's that oiling one on the bottom. That one gives you a hard time. So, got it in. It's tight. Let's hopefully this time goes in there with no issues. We're gonna tap it. See, now I'm using the screwdriver. It's not technically the best thing, but it's the bottom is plastic. It's not gonna damage it. I'm not hitting it hard enough to damage anything. Oh yes, she's in. We got it going there, boys. Now, the best thing to do is to push it down towards the bottom. Now I got my hand down here at the bottom of the engine. Yep, here you go. Now I can guide it. There you go. She's in there. So now all thing left to do is put the cap, and you have to understand. You have to remember the writing of this. Like every piston connecting rod is different, but on mine the writing is pointing towards the front of the engine, so that way I know that. I always make sure, I have to make sure that when I'm putting it in, I'm putting it in right. Because these caps and the bearings are only meant to go in there one way. They only sit in there properly the one way. So, if you put it in wrong, you can tend to that there's things that could happen, like the bearings could have excessive wear. They could not seat properly, and they can have wobble on the bearings, could cause them to shred, overheat. They could have one side of the bearing that's tighter than the other side because it's not in there properly. All right, that's good. Now, let's tip this engine over upside down. There. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna leave it running. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go back into the book. I'm gonna check and see what the torque specs are for these. They shouldn't be too much, but there should be enough to see what's going on here. All right. Now, I'll go to 2C because mine's a 2.4 liter, and torque specs. You go, not sure if it's in here. I mean, it's in here. It's not, I'm not sure if it's in this area of the book. Cylinder head bolts. No, and I don't need cylinder head bolts. So what I'm going to do is go to the 2E section, which is basically the general engine overhauling information. And they give you more torque specs there for if you're overhauling an engine. So connecting rod cap nuts. Step 1, 175 inch-pounds. And then I do a step 2, which is a 90 degree further, which is a 90 degree extra on them. All right, so let's do that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, 174 would be something like 20 foot-pounds. Let me gonna check that and I'll be right back with you. All right, so I checked it. It says 14.5 foot-pounds. It is 174 inch-pounds. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to tighten it to 15, I'm going to round it up to 15 foot-pounds, just because of the fact that I find that it's a little bit loose at that. I really don't want to have any trouble with it, so I'm going to tighten it just a little bit extra. Make sure that I have no issues with it later. Alright, so got my torque bar. I'm going to set it to, right now I'm at 17. I'm going to back it up 2 to 15. That should be good. Come on, get on there. Unless I have the same trouble I had the other day. Not being able to find the right size. Oh, it's one of those things. I'm gonna need to get a deep socket. I think it's the fatness of it. Technically, 15 foot-pounds. You can do that by hand. You tighten it by hand, and then you do an extra 90, which is basically what I'm probably gonna end up doing. Here you go. There, I got what I did get, and I'm planning on doing. So I'm gonna use to make it so that way I know I don't have any issues. I'm gonna use this. I got a 12 mil, but it's for the smaller one with an adapter. So here you see now it's on it, and now I can go. There, that's 15. 15. 15. 15. There, these are all 15. All right, so let's do the 90 degree rotation. So what I want to do is I'm gonna put it straight here, and I'm gonna turn it even. There, that's where it's tight. So I want to turn it even with the engine. So that's 90. Do the same thing with this one. That's 90. $90. $90. Now, let's rotate it. We'll do the other two set of pistons, and then we should be done with this. Then we could probably, most likely, no, I was going to seal up the bottom, but I think I have there's a shroud or a plate that goes underneath this, I think. So I'm going to have to get that done too. Here. All right, now let's do number 4. Tighten it down to 15. There. And what you never want to do is you never want to, like, let's say this one here is 15 foot-pounds. You tighten them both to 15 foot-pounds and then go 90 degree further. You don't want to do one 90 and then go, okay, I'm at 15, now I'm going to go 90. Then do the other one 15 and then go 90, because then you're tightening one side tighter than the other. It's not going to seat properly. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that they're both at 15, then do the 90. So that way you're tightening them both evenly. There. That's good. I want to do like this. So here, like this, and then go like that. There, that's done. This is going to be a pain. I can do the one. Not sure about the other one. I might need to get an extension. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get an extension. I don't like using an extension because it tends to reduce the amount of torque that you're using. You gotta also understand that a lot of this torque is passed through the socket. Now, if you're adding an extension, you're reducing the amount of torque that's getting to it. Even though, yeah, it's all in the same line, it's all in the same area, technically, the amount of torque you're getting here may not be the same as torque as you're getting at the top of it, which is technically what you want. You want the torque to be at the bottom. So I could technically be tightening this tighter than 15. Okay. $90. Wow. That's one. And 90. Now you see, I was worried I had to take this off. I just replaced the gasket in it. I didn't want to have to take it off and then have the gasket ruined. So I'm happy I didn't have to. So now what we're going to do, take this down, this away. I'm going to check and see my pile of parts. Now you see, this is the disadvantage of doing a project like this. Now you got to understand, this is a project that I'm taking over that somebody else started. They took it apart and they were going to do something else with it. Now, when you do that, technically what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a position where you need to almost be 100% familiar with the engine you're working with and know exactly where everything goes. For me, I don't know where everything goes in this engine. It's the first time I ever work on an engine like this. And I mean, like, I've worked on multiple engines before. I've just never rebuilt a 4G64 from the ground up. And I'm pretty sure there's not too many people who drive those cars that actually have. So if I ever needed any instructions or anything like that, I have to refer to my book, because the people that actually have rebuilt engines like this, all they've done is take off the top of the head, put a new head on, or they went from a single overhead cam to a double overhead cam, which makes things a lot more complicated. For me here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I got clear silicone, so I'm going to wash this. Clean the surface of where my silicone is going to go, because I obviously don't want oils and residue and shit like that to go on there. I am going to be putting oil, like, I know I don't need to, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, well, why are you putting oil, why are you putting silicone all over the place? You don't really need to. It's not necessary, and I understand that. All I really needed to do was put some on the corners here where the opening is for the rear main seal, and the front crank here, the front seal in the front. But to save myself problems later on down the road, I prefer just to do it like this. Scraping that, it's lifted too high. There you go. That's even now. When I put the silicone, it won't have a bulge or anything. It won't make a space where it can technically leak. Now, I know I'm going a little over and above when it comes to this engine, because of the fact that this is supposed to be a cruiser car, you know. I mean, I'm building this car so I can drive around with it, enjoy myself, have fun with it, and I really don't want to have issues down the road where I got to replace like another oil pan, gasket, or some other gasket because I didn't do it right, or I didn't install it right. And if there's a problem with this engine and it fails, and it's something that I know that I should have done better, I could have done it, I could have installed it the proper way, then I'm gonna feel stupid later on down the road because I didn't do it right. So, to save me from having to remove the engine again, take it all completely apart and replace more gaskets that should have been not replaced in the first place, because the gaskets that are on it that I've been putting on it right now are brand new, and they're really good. All these gaskets are from Engine Tech. which means that they're built by a company that's not from Japan, they're from the United States. So these gaskets are made with quality parts, quality material, and they're made to put on an engine and make sure that the engine lasts longer. Oh, and this year I changed the O-ring in it. I actually took everything apart, cleaned everything, put more oil down it, and put the O-ring, changed the O-ring here because I figured I had the O-ring and might as well replace it. All right, now let's get the sealant. We'll put the sealant there, put the gasket. We'll lock that shit down, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so this is what I'm using. It's GB Weld. It's the high temp red silicone. So technically I could technically just put this on and not put the gasket on and be fine. But for double protection, I'm gonna put the gasket on. I'm sure this may be upside down. Yep. It's upside down. There. So this goes like so. Now they're saying, oh, he's forgetting something. Yes, I am. I'm forgetting to put the silicone. Don't worry, didn't forget. Believe me, there's a lot of things I would like to forget, and I don't want to. No. I'm gonna go cut an end on this. I'm gonna put it. We're gonna start installing. Right, so what you want to do, if you're new at this, most people that do this don't really need this information. But if you're wondering how you open the hole on this, this is sealed completely. There's in the cap, on the top of the cap, there's like this weird a pointy spot. You stick it in and you pop it. Basically, that gives you an opening here. You put the cover on and ready to use. So let's remove this. Oh, we're back. Now, this is, I wanted to show you guys something. I put RTV, basically, this is, if you guys know what RTV is, it's basically heat resistant or high temp silicone, which is what I've already showed you earlier. I put 2 layers. So basically, I got bottom, I put a thin coat. I put a thin coat on top where the pan is, and I put my gasket in between. The gasket's a cork gasket, so it will compress good enough. But you don't, what this is here, what you want to do is you want to hand tighten all this, and then come back when it's dry and tighten it down completely. So that way you give time for the silicone to dry and to get hardened. Technically, it should stay somewhat soft for silicone, but what you want to do is you want to hand tighten this just the way where it should be, and then you want to leave it like that. So that's what I'm going to do for tonight. I'm not going to finish. I wanted to put the top end on it. See the head? I wanted to put the head on it, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I want to give this time to dry, and the way it is, the position it's in right now, upside down like this, it's perfect. I can lubricate it and everything, make sure everything is not lubricate it, but tighten it down, and then everything should be good. All right, so if you like this video and you want to see more, you want to see where this engine goes and how much of it I get done, tomorrow I'm coming back. I'm going to do another video because I'm going to be most likely wanting to finish the rest of it tomorrow, which shouldn't be much because we've already got the hardest part of it done. So if you want to see the rest of this, please hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. And if you're interested in seeing anything else that's happening, I'm going to be posting photos. I always post some of the photos to my Instagram, so hit up the Phoenix Garage Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe. It's I've checked my stats, and so far there's a lot of people that have subscribed, but I'm sure there could be a lot more. So if you're interested, not just in the DSM build, or not just because it's an Eclipse, but just because of the fact that it's building an engine and seeing how far I get with it. And I'm not going to be taking this into a high performance. It's like I said before, it's just going to be a cruiser. So I'm just going to make it stock as possible. And I'm hoping to have this done, and we could be running this in the spring. Right now it's a little late. The season's kind of over for that. But yeah, we'll be running this in the spring, and hopefully everybody looks forward to seeing it run.